focus on the United Kingdom and take a look at the situation over there. And in the UK, it now has the highest death rate from COVID of any country in the world. That's what the latest data has revealed. An average of 935 daily deaths in the UK over the last week was the equivalent of more than 16 people in every million dying each day from coronavirus. The UK has experienced more than 3.4 million confirmed infections. That's the equivalent of 1 in every 20 people. So for the UK, a race to vaccinate as the virus is also spreading rapidly with the more infectious variant there. To talk more about the situation there, we're now joined by the chair of UK's Commission on Human Medicines, Professor Sir M. Peer Mohammed, who helped approve vaccine rollouts in the UK. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. So there are 3 vaccines that are currently approved in the UK. If you could tell us more about them.
Thank you very much. Yes, I chair the independent expert advisory group for the MHRA, which is the UK regulator, and we've been working extensively and comprehensively since September last year, looking at the data as it comes through and undertaking what's called a rolling review, whereby as data comes through, we look at it and then we get more data and we look at it until we get all the data before we can make a recommendation as to whether to recommend to the regulator whether the vaccine can be authorized for use. And through that process, we've been through 3 different vaccines: the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, the AstraZeneca vaccine, and the Moderna vaccine, all 3 of which are now authorized in the UK.
And are you completely satisfied and assured that all these vaccines are fully safe and effective in fighting coronavirus?
So the independent group that I chair looks at 3 different aspects of any product or vaccine. One is the quality, one is the effectiveness, and the other is safety. And we had data from vaccines, all the 3 vaccines in terms of phase 1, the phase 2 and phase 3 studies. And these were, the phase 3 studies particularly were very large studies. You know, the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine had about 40,000 individuals involved in the clinical trials, and the other vaccines were also in the tens of thousands. And we were able to look at that data in detail as it came through, the raw data as well as the analysis of that data, and we were satisfied that the vaccines were safe and effective and were of good quality to be used in the population.
And so was there pressure to approve multiple vaccines considering the surge in the number of cases due to the new variant in the United Kingdom?
So obviously we are all trying to fight the pandemic and save lives. But the important thing is that we've used the same rules that we do for any other medicines, the same stringency, without cutting any corners, to be able to make sure that the vaccines were safe and effective. But what we did was to work in a different way. Normally, when a vaccine's been coming through in the previous years, you get the whole trials done, and then the pharmaceutical company then provides that data at the end to the regulator, and then we look at it. But here we've been doing it on a rolling basis. As the data has been coming through on different aspects, from the laboratory studies, from the phase 1 studies, and the phase 3 studies. So we've been doing it on rolling sort of basis, which allows us to be able to shorten the time undertaken for the review process and the regulatory process.
Now, sir, India's vaccination drive has just begun. Have you been observing it? Any comments on that? And also any new vaccines that you're looking forward to?
So the many different vaccines which are being developed at the moment, which are coming through, and they are of different types, as you said, one dose only, or the nasal vaccines, or the protein vaccines. There are many different types, which is fantastic news for everybody because it shows the innovation that's going on and how much work that's gone on to develop these new vaccines. I've seen data for 3 vaccines in detail. Obviously, I've read about the other vaccines that may be coming through in the literature, but I don't have details, deep enough details of the new vaccines at the moment. And obviously, if they do come through to the UK regulator, then the expert advisory groups we'll be looking at those in detail again, as we have done for the 3 vaccines.
So now one of the vaccines approved in India, Bharat Biotech's Covaxin, in which Bharat Biotech has said that the 3rd phase of the trial results are yet to be out, but it has received that go-ahead. So how is that compared to your benchmarks for approvals?
So it's difficult for me to comment on that because I haven't seen the data, you know, I don't know exactly what data that's been used to make that assessment. But all I can do is to actually comment on the kind of vaccine data that I've seen on the 3 vaccines. I believe that India may be rolling out eventually the AstraZeneca vaccine, which has been looked at, where we've looked at the data. And I can comment on that in terms of efficacy and safety that we saw. But it's difficult for me to comment on vaccine data that I haven't actually seen.
All right, well, perhaps that was an unfair question, but India is the vaccine capital of the world. We manufacture many vaccines. What notes can be exchanged with India now that UK is about 45 days into your vaccination drive and we're just a few days in?
Yes, I think so. You know, we need to learn from each other all over the world, and learn from experiences and the experiences that we've had in terms of the safety of the vaccine, as well as the sort of data which is going to come out through in terms of long-term effectiveness and the deployment as well. What worked and what didn't work. So I think that's really important to learn from each other, so that we can actually take, we can protect the population of the world, not just one country, but the whole of the world eventually, and get rid of this pandemic.
All right, Professor Peer Mohammed, thank you so much for joining us on NDTV and answering all those questions.